The year is 48 AD. A 15-year-old girl walks into the most powerful palace on earth. She's wearing white silk. Myrtle leaves crowned her golden hair. The Senate stands up. The people cheer. Emperor Claudius, a 50-year-old man with a limp and a stammer, takes her small hand. Her name, Valeria Messalina. Remember that name, because Rome tried very hard to make sure you wouldn't. They expected her to be their savior. Rome was still recovering from the madness of Caligula, 4 years of insanity where horses were made senators and executions were entertainment. They needed stability. They dressed this teenage girl up as their salvation. But within 10 years, she would turn this palace into a house of horrors that historians still struggle to describe. Senators became her playthings. Aristocratic daughters disappeared into her chambers and came back broken. She staged contests that would shock professional prostitutes. She blackmailed the most powerful men in the world. And then she did the impossible. While still married to the emperor, she married another man. In broad daylight, with witnesses, as if daring the entire Roman Empire to stop her. And when they finally did stop her, they dragged her statues through the streets and smashed them. They chiseled her name off every building. They rewrote the history books as if she never existed. It's called Damnatio Memoriata, damnation of memory. But 2,000 years later, you are here listening to this story, because the things Rome tried hardest to bury are the things we can't stop digging up. Let's rewind to 38 A. Rome looks invincible on the outside, but inside, it's rotting. After Caligula is stabbed to death by his own guards, 29 times Rome panicked. They found Claudius hiding behind a curtain, the stammering uncle. The family embarrassment. They made him emperor simply because he was the last man breathing. Claudius needed legitimacy fast. So, he married his cousin, Valeria Messalina. She was 15. Beautiful, educated, and seemingly perfect. On paper, she was the ideal Roman wife. Modest, chaste, a symbol of virtue. But here's the question nobody asked. What happens when you give unlimited power to a teenager who has been told her only value is her purity? What happens when you put her in a cage of gold and tell her to untouch anything? Rome was about to find out. The first few years were perfect. She gave Claudius 2 heirs, Octavia and Britannicus. She played the part, but in private, Rome has always had 2 kinds of women, the wife and the whore. The system worked because these 2 worlds never touched. Messalina decided to be both. The rumors started around 42 AD. Imagine a senator walking through the Suburra Rome's red light district. It smells like cheap wine and desperation. He pays for a room. A woman enters. She's wearing a dark wig and heavy makeup. But when their eyes meet, he freezes. He recognizes her. It's the Empress of Rome. According to historians like Tacitus, Messalina allegedly used the name Lisi and worked in a brothel for the thrill of it. Not for money, she owned the world, but for the power. Think about the psychology here. Every man who recognized her became her accomplice. What were they going to do? Report the Empress. She owned them, but the brothel was just practice. The real game happened inside the palace. Picture a Roman banquet. Senators and generals eating honey-roasted dormice, drinking expensive wine. Very civilized. Until Messalina gives the signal, the doors close. New guests arrive. Gladiators, actors, sometimes the teenage sons of the guests. Refusal wasn't an option. A tribune once declined her invitation. 3 days later, he was dead. A nobleman tried to leave early. His family lost everything. And then there was the contest. Pliny the Elder, guy who usually wrote about plants, recorded this with horror. A competition between the Empress and Rome's most famous prostitute to see who could handle more partners in a single night. According to Pliny, Messalina won. 25 partners. True? Maybe. Exaggerated. Probably. But the fact that this story even exists tells you how terrified Rome was of her. She wasn't submitting to men. She was dominating them. How did she get away with it? She built a network of shame. She collected secrets like coins. Every senator she compromised was one less enemy. Everyone was complicit. And Claudius, he was busy building aqueducts and invading Britain. Did he know? Of course. There were whispers. But admitting it would mean admitting he was a weak man who couldn't control his own wife. It would mean civil war. So, he looked away. He pretended the rot wasn't spreading. Until 48 AD, the year everything broke. It was autumn. Claudius was away in Ostia, managing the grain supply. Back in Rome, Messalina decided to get married again, to Gaius Silius, a handsome, ambitious senator. This wasn't a secret affair. This was a public wedding, with guests, with vows, while her husband, the emperor, was just a few miles away. Was it a coup? Was she insane? Or had she just pushed the boundaries so far that she thought they didn't exist anymore? When the news reached Claudius, he couldn't believe it. But the marriage contract was signed. It was legal. The laughter stopped. The emperor returned to Rome with the Praetorian Guard. They found Messalina in the gardens of Lucalisa, beautiful estate she had stolen from another noble. She was with her mother. The party was over. She tried to send a message to Claudius, begging for mercy. She offered her children as hot, but the soldiers arrived. She fell to her knees. She begged, but orders are orders. Her mother told her, "Your life is over. All that remains is to make a decent end." She handed Messalina a dagger. Messalina tried to stab herself, but her hand shook too much. She couldn't do it. Finally, the tribune stepped forward and finished the job. Valeria Messalina, Empress of Rome, died at 25 years old in a pool of blood on the grass. Claudius ordered her name erased. He never spoke of her again. When he sat down to dinner that night, he reportedly asked, "Why hasn't the lady come to eat?" As if he had already forgotten, he ordered her execution. Rome tried to delete her, but history has a funny way of remembering the things we try to hide. Her children suffered for her sins. Her daughter Octavia was executed by Nero. Her son Britannicus was poisoned at 14. Was Messalina a monster, or was she a product of her environment? She was a 15-year-old girl sold into a marriage with an old man. She was given absolute power with zero guidance. She lived in a world where men could do whatever they wanted, but women were property. She found a way to take power back. It was twisted. It was destructive, but it was hers. Rome fell not just because of barbarians at the gates, but because of rot from within. Messalina proved that you don't need an army to destroy an empire. You just need enough secrets. If you walk through the ruins of the Palatine Hill today, there are no statues of her, but her story is still here. A warning that power without purpose destroys everything it touches. You've just witnessed one of history's darkest truths. If stories like this remind you why we must remember the past, subscribe to Crimson Historians, because the ghosts of Rome are still speaking, if you're willing to listen.